Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Mokwariola. These are interesting times in Africa's political evolution, where the revolution seems to have gone from the streets to the ballot, showing that even the most entrenched African leader can be defeated by a credible and resolute opposition. And after almost 2 years of political uncertainty, the Democratic Republic of Congo is set for presidential elections in December, with President Joseph Kabila agreeing to step down after 17 years in power. And so we ask, what are your thoughts on opposition politics, taking a look at political developments in the Democratic Republic of Congo ahead of the country's upcoming presidential election? You can join the conversation and share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC News NG. We take a report, and Africa Today will be right back. Welcome.
The Democratic Republic of Congo will hold its general election on December the 23rd, 2018. Poll will decide who will be a successor to incumbent President Joseph Kabila. Top opposition leaders in the country have picked legislator Martin Fayulu as their joint candidate for the presidential election due next month. 62-year-old Fayulu, who is the leader of the Commitment for Citizenship and Development Party, ECIDE, will face President Joseph Kabila's preferred successor, Emmanuel Shadari, in Democratic Republic of Congo's election.
I am going to convince them. They must agree. There is no other way. We want change, and this change comes by supporting Martin Fayulu's candidacy. If they want Kabila's system to continue, they will make their choice. But I choose change, and change today is called Martin Fayulu. We now need to bring what we can to this common candidate, and hope we will win.
Kabila, who has been in power since his father died in 2001, surprised a lot of Congolese when he agreed to step aside in August 2018, which is Congo's first peaceful change of power since independence from Belgium in 1960.
Before we get into the discussion of the day, let's update you on some of the top news stories around Africa. Supporters of one of D.R.C's main opposition party leader, Felix Tshisekedi, have rejected the appointment of Martin Fayulu as the joint opposition presidential candidate. The Norwegian Refugee Council says about 10,000 people have been affected by cholera outbreak in Nigeria, and 175 people have died in the northeast states of Adamawa, Borno and Yobe as early as November 2018. Scores of Ghanaians in the capital Accra today defied police orders demonstrating over the absence of footbridges on some roads, which they say has resulted in fatal accidents. Now joining me to discuss party politics in Africa with a close look at political developments in the Democratic Republic of Congo, I have Nelson Ekujumi, an election observer and a political analyst. And on Skype, I will be speaking with Collins Nweke, global affairs analyst and a Nigerian-born politician based in Belgium. Good to have you gentlemen on the program tonight.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Great. Now let me begin with you now, Nelson. We see that the opposition in the DR Congo is trying to be stronger than it was before. Now it has rallied behind a candidate, Fayulu, to face President Kabila's successor, deemed successor, that's Emmanuel Shadari. Now, with this opposition, even though supporters of the opposition aren't too happy with the emergence of Fayulu, they feel that Tshisekedi has a better chance because he's been there for some time, so it would be unfair, more or less, to give it to another person who is just entering, more or less, into the political scene. But what are your chances, that's the opposition, to unseat the incumbents, to unseat the ruling party in Congo on December 23 when the elections take off?
Thank you very much. I think the ability or the chances of the opposition parties, don't forget, when we talk about opposition parties, we are talking of parties outside the ruling party that is in government. And in this case, the opposition parties is more than one. Because right now, the opposition parties have united under a Martin Fayulu. There's also a Tshisekedi and some other candidates available. So for me, I think the ability of the opposition parties to be able to spring a surprise will depend on the credibility of their candidates and also how well entrenched those political parties that have formed this opposition are with the people of Congo. If these opposition parties only exist on the pages or in the media, you expect that the average Congolese who is going to vote on election day will not, a lot of them might not even have access to this media hype that we are talking about. So it depends on how conversant, how familiar the people are with the opposition parties, such that the people have trust in them that, look, we've had enough of the ruling party. We want to taste a new life. And it also depends on the selling points of the opposition parties and their candidates. If the candidates that they are throwing up, if it's a candidate that has gone down well with the vast majority of the Congolese people, it is not unlikely that they are likely to carry the day. But in a situation whereby all we know or all we hear are candidates who are known in the media, then definitely you should not be surprised if the results returns according to how the people are going to exercise it on December 23rd. So it is very, very important for us to weigh the political relevance of the opposition parties. The political relevance of the opposition parties is that in what way have they enunciated programs that appeals to the sensibilities of the people, that they are ready to, to cast their destiny in their hands for the next 5 years. Don't forget, President Joseph Kabila is not running in this election, not only because of the international pressure, but because of the local resentment that, no, we've had enough. And it is important for us that even if the people are fed up with a Joseph Kabila that is not contesting, and somebody who people have deemed a surrogate from his party is being propped up now, that the other parties must also be, the opposition parties must be presenting a candidate that will sync with the sensibilities of the people. Otherwise, you should not be surprised if the ruling party, returns at the ballot.
So, Collins, from your position, do you think Fayulu was a wise choice as a unified candidate for the opposition in Congo?
Well, thank you first and foremost for having me. As a matter of fact, I believe that based on what he stands for, his ideologies and all of that, I think it's difficult to make any credible or reliable assessment of who he is politically. And that appears to be a general problem with opposition politics in Africa. It's always, or most of the time, based on personalities rather than ideologies. So I think the same problem is being played out in Democratic Republic of Congo. Just like in Nigeria, we experienced the same thing about 4 or 5 years ago when the current President Buhari came to sit. So the issue with Africa, that I can also notice a little bit of change in terms of voter education and voter awareness, because we are gradually beginning to see that in the case of Congo, the reason Kabila isn't running is not because Kabila doesn't want to run. No, Kabila has shown signs of manipulative politics, and if he had his way, he will run. But he's not running for two main reasons. Reason number one is the efficacy of the campaign mounted against his candidacy by the civil society. Now, as the civil society went out en masse, they were mobilizing in very great number, And even Kabila himself was concerned about, the possible mayhem that may be unleashed as a result of his insistence on running. That's on one hand. Then on the other hand, the international community also, brought some very important pressure to bear on him. So going back to the first point, which is, voter awareness, voter education, I believe that Africa is moving very, very gradually, painfully slow. Nevertheless, they are moving. That needs to be stepped up a little bit.
All right.
So that's how I see it at this moment.
All right, now let's take a quick break. You're watching Africa Today. We'll take our discussions further, looking at the implications of African politics and, of course, with focus in Nigeria. Stay with us. Hello, Collins.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm being told that your lighting is too bright on your face. Are you directly under a light?
Yes, I am.
Okay, could you adjust a little bit away so that we don't have bouncing reflections on your face? Because that's the way it's coming out. Except the way you okay, as you sat back. Okay.
Yes. 1 second. Is it better now?
Not quite. It's still the same. Can you turn your camera? Can you turn it away a little bit?
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah.
It's better now?
Yeah, this is better. This is better.
Okay.
It's
All right.
better.
So let me maintain this position then.
All right.
Do we have enough?
Yeah, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. Cheers.
Your headroom, could you take your camera back, or you could just go back a little? Yeah, that's fine now. You're fine.
It's okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Supporting Martin Fayulu's candidacy.
Welcome back. Opposition parties in Congo recently met in Geneva, Switzerland, to rally behind one candidate in hopes it will improve his chances of winning next month's presidential election. Now, barely 24 hours to the Geneva Declaration, the Congo's UDPS party supporters rejected the coalition candidacy of Martin Fayulu, with protests burning fire outside the party's headquarters. Now, Nelson, let's take a look at what we see, even still in the DR Congo. You know, when you're talking about the opposition, one would say, okay, yes, it's finally the new dawn in any country that has its opposition, because the ruling party may not have done well. So the opposition definitely has a chance to perhaps correct the wrongs that the ruling party would have had. But with this trend in Congo, do you think that they would have a foothold in maintaining a strong base? Because the party we're talking about in the Congo has been there for years. Do you think the opposition can maintain a foothold, or what areas do you think what they can do to maintain that foothold in Congo's politics?
Well, you expect that the parties that have come together to form an opposition must be parties that have the same political ideologies or similar political viewpoints on issues as it affects the lives of the people of Congo.
Right.
So you don't expect all the parties to coalesce into one major opposition party. Don't forget, in the Nigerian example, if we go the Nigerian way, in 2015, not all the parties came together and formed an opposition. The opposition in Nigeria was formed by just 4 out of the so many political parties in existence. Then we had about 40 thereabout political parties. So likewise right now in Congo, in DR Congo, you expect parties that have strong footholds in various regions of the country and who have the same political ideology to come together with the purpose of wresting power from the ruling party and improving the lot of the people of DR Congo. So if those parties don't exist in those regions, if those parties have not familiarized themselves with the people of DR Congo, who will continue to, at the end of the day, when election is conducted, you will see that the opposition parties will be crying foul. But the truth of the matter is that we all owe ourselves the responsibility that what is the strength of the political parties that are forming this coalition? Do they have the numerical strength in the regions? Do they have the followership? Have they been able to sell their programs and their candidates to the people? So unless we're able to get affirmative answer in that regard, I don't think we can expect anything to change come December 23rd, 2018.
And from your position now, Collins, let's take a look now in Nigerian politics. We have 68 political parties right now, and we are gearing up for elections, in a few months from now. How would you structure the opposition in Nigeria from your own perspective?
Well, I will first and foremost tell you how I would structure the opposition in Nigeria. I would structure the opposition in Nigeria with the determination to defeat the incumbent. Because obviously what you see in an attempt for opposition parties to form a coalition and eventually merge into one to provide a formidable run for the money of the incumbent, it's usually that they have one goal in mind, and that goal is getting rid of the incumbent. When they do that, actually they forget the fact that in politics there is something called ideology. What unifies these parties? What essentially do you all subscribe to? Now, I'm not saying that all parties have to have, all parties in the opposition this time around have to have exactly the same ideologies, because that in itself is not even very, very healthy. There might be, disparities, because when you take, for example, the left-wing political ideology or the right-wing political ideology, within each of the groups or the liberals, within each of the groups, there are different, opposing voices. Now, what is important is drawing up a program that are debated, input received from the different, opposing bodies, and finally coming to a particular document that they can truly call theirs. And now that requires a little bit of compromise. That requires actually, stepping away from your comfort zone and accepting some other hard realities. And for the society itself, it has very strong benefits. Now, that is how I will expect, the opposition parties in Nigeria to begin to think of how, they are going to form a formidable force to defeat, the current regime. Of course, the current regime itself has to, do its homework in terms of how it wants to remain in power and, convince the people about that. And the only way to do that is, what message are you sending to the people? What is your program? What is your plan for them, away from personalities and all of that?
And you're talking about the opposition in Nigeria. I'm still on you, Collins. The opposition in Nigeria, many would say it's not really formidable, doesn't really have a strong alliance. Because when you have so many parties having to sell different ideologies, not being on one platform, we definitely have a fractured vote. But in the case of Congo, we have one party unifying behind one candidate. But there are fears, perhaps, now that if not well managed, that's in the Congo, there might be an eruption of what happened, in the 2003 civil war. But looking at things in the Congo, what likely implications do you think might erupt in the Congo if the political situations isn't well, managed for the people to enjoy the benefits, so to speak?
Yes, indeed. That's a very relevant question. I mean, it's got to be admitted up front. I mean, by everyone, every pundit, and even the common man in Congo, that being in power for nearly 20 years means essentially that you are very seriously entrenched, in the politics of the country, and that makes you a very hard nut to crack. That is the person of, Kabila. Now, Kabila himself is not on the ballot. That much is obvious, but we know that his prodigy, the gentleman who has now emerged as the candidate, is receiving, strong support from him. One can only hope that they will not be using the instruments of power to be able to put the opposition in disadvantage. But the signs are there that is essentially what is happening. Now, 23rd December is not very much far anymore, but we can only expect that that jinx will be broken. Now, coming to your question as to what might happen if it turns out the other way, well, I think it can better be imagined than speculated about, because I believe that if the opposition gets their way, I think it will require very strong civil society movement. I mean, continuation of the campaigns that they have been carried out that led to his giving up power, and indeed, soft persuasion from the international community for Kabila to actually, accept the result of the election if the opposition wins. So it's not looking likely that the better days are ahead of Congo. It may get worse before it gets better.
It may get worse before it gets better, but let's hope that it gets better in the end. Now, Nelson, still on Nigerian politics now, even though we're still talking about the two together, Nigeria will be having its elections in 2019, and as we speak right now, we have myriads of political parties, and there isn't a strong opposition. What are your thoughts on what we are seeing on the ground, and how can we have a formidable alliance when going into the elections proper in 2019?
Well, thank you very much. Like you have rightly said, we have about 91 political parties as we speak. One expects those parties to be addressing the issues as it affects the livelihood of the average Nigerian. But unfortunately, what we have seen of late are political parties who, rather than selling their manifesto and what they can do to better the lot of the Nigerian people, are busy casting aspersions on the ruling government. For me, that is worrisome. That is deviating from the main issue. The main issue at hand are what are those indices that you feel the current government is lacking in affecting the life of the Nigerian positively, that when you get into office, you can, make corrections too. But it's like we have now, they are not doing that. So the possibility of the opposition, even the opposition parties themselves, from what we have seen, there was an attempt to unite behind one candidate. We all saw how the whole thing collapsed like a pack of cards, even before it got started. So it is not unexpected that this divided house is what they will take into the general elections. But looking at DR Congo now, you can see that the opposition parties are divided between a Martin Fayulu and a Tshisekedi. So it does not mean that the people will vote, all the people that are supposed to vote for Tshisekedi will vote for Fayulu. What we should be more concerned about is the opposition parties putting their hearts together, because we don't expect that all the opposition parties should coalesce into one movement. It is not impossible, but the reality on our hands right now is that that is not likely going to happen. But like they say, 24 hours is a long time in politics.
Right.
December 2023 is still very, very far away. So anything can still happen. Maybe they can reach a compromise. But apart from that, the only guarantee for peace will be the conduct of a free, transparent, and credible election.
And that's a good way to live it right now. Thank you very much, Nelson Ekujumi, election observer, and my guest on Skype, Collins Nweke, global affairs analyst, a Nigerian politician based in Belgium. We appreciate your analysis on the show.
Thank you for having me.
From Nigeria to Sierra Leone, Zimbabwe to Mali, political developments have shown how Africa is evolving through an era of periodic elections, ambitious incumbents, and vibrant oppositions. And as it stands, all eyes are on the Democratic Republic of Congo, a country that has never known a peaceful transition of power since it gained independence from Belgium in 1960. Making it potentially one of the continent's most important democratic process of 2018. And that is our package for tonight. But don't forget to join the conversation as usual on Twitter at TVC News NG, and follow me for updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. Until the next one again, I am Esther Bokwariola. And always remember, Africa can only get better.